Hey guys, we're going to start on a new project today, and so you all should have your sketchbooks out so you can take notes. The project we're going to talk about today is entitled Word Art, but we're going to talk about a particular art movement to start with, to kind of give you a little bit of an introduction into what I'm looking at. So, let's see here. First of all, let's talk a little bit about pop art. So pop art is a movement that started in the 1950s and 60s and kind of went into the 70s. Pop art is a movement, a style of art you probably have heard of. You may know, even if you don't realize um, that you've seen it. Pop art is the abbreviation for popular art or popular culture. So it was artists were kind of making a commentary about things that were going on in the world around them. Now, what's important about this is to realize that graphic design as a medium hadn't really been around that long, maybe since the 30s, 20s or 30s. And pop art was kind of where graphic design and fine art and advertising were all kind of mashed together into one sort of mix. But one of the common factors was that all these things used words, letters. It wasn't really a common thing that you saw with um, fine art usually, but pop art definitely does. So let's look at some pop art. This is Andy Warhol's soup can. Now, some of you have probably seen this painting. This is a real common example of the pop art movement. But a lot of people look at this and they think, why? Why am I looking at this Campbell's soup can? Like, why? What is this? What is this? Well, Andy Warhol did this painting, and he kind of did a lot of stuff that had um, advertising themes. I mean, he would make boxes that looked like they were boxes of soap that you might buy in the grocery store. He would make replicas of those. And when he did this painting, he actually did a whole bunch of them. You can look it up, but there was I don't remember exactly how many, 30 or 40 of them, but all of them together they made one big giant grouping of all Campbell's tomato soup cans. So you might be wondering what it is that Andy Warhol is trying to say here. Well, I'll move myself down a little bit. One of the things that we all take for granted because we've grown up in a society where visual imagery is everywhere is that graphic design and this idea of making things beautiful to try to sell them has not always been this way. It used to be, I even remember it myself going to the grocery store when I was a kid, and the cereal box in the store, you could buy Kellogg's, which looked like a normal cereal box, or you could buy the store brand, and the store brand was just a white box with black lettering. They didn't spend any time, you know, gussying it up. But Campbell's, you know, this company spent millions of dollars making this vision for the consumer. They wanted a friendly typeface that would make you feel, happy and easygoing about buying it. And yet they wanted to use a very sturdy typeface for this because they wanted you to feel confident that you were going to be eating a soup that wouldn't make you sick, that it was going to be safe. They wanted to use a very classic traditional lettering down here to make you think, oh, this is tomato soup that I recognize. This is traditional. This is America. And then they put this seal on the middle. This seal doesn't mean anything, but when you see that, you think, oh, maybe it's an award-winning soup. It's so good that they got this gold seal of approval. All this is designed to kind of make you want to buy this soup, right? Well, that's what Andy Warhol is commenting on. He's saying, look at this art that is designed to sell you something, but it's also beautiful and it's really highly designed but it's fine art. It's kind of like fine art. He was also commenting about the fact that there was a lot of mass production and mass deliveries of things where they could take the same soup and it could be in all places of the country. And you kind of see the death of regionalism when you have that. It's kind of like McDonald's and Subway going into every little town. You stop, each of those little towns quit feeling individual. So he was kind of talking about that too. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on in this one soup can. Now let's look at an actual 3D work. This is a sculpture by Robert Indiana. This is probably an image that you guys have seen on stickers or postage stamps or, T-shirts. Robert Indiana really made a lot of hay out of this one design, I guess you could say. It's interesting to see how one small simple idea can actually be more powerful than something that's really, really complicated. I mean, this idea, there's not a lot to it, but it's just, the letters LOVE, but he's stacked them in this certain way, and he's turned the O in a certain way that makes it kind of feel, interesting and quirky. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes you don't need something to be super complicated. Now, Robert Indiana, he parlayed this design everywhere, and so this sculpture is one of many that you can find around the country. This is Jasper Johns. Jasper Johns was a big fan of symbols in art. You saw a lot of work of his that had targets or American flags. That, in fact, the American flag that's up on the wall in the back of our classroom that looks like it's 3 American flags stacked together, that's a Jasper Johns painting. He was interested in not only the meanings behind these symbols or, like the flag or the numbers or whatever, but he was also interested in just the shapes and the sort of the texture of them themselves. That's why when you see a painting like this is not, this isn't like a little kid's book about how to learn how to count to 9. This is a representation of the touch and feel of these numbers. Jasper Johns was interested in the way that the 3 swoops or the way that the 8 seems to be moving in an endless pattern, He's not interested in the content of the message here. He's not transmitting information with this piece. He's really thinking about the letter forms themselves and how beautiful they are. That's why he's painted them black on black. Now, this is Robert Rauschenberg. Robert Rauschenberg was another one of the pop artists. He was more of a sculptor, but I thought this was interesting. They asked him to make the very first Earth Day poster. And so this was kind of a neat way to take text, take lettering, and to sort of think outside the box and how you're going to put it together. My favorite pop artist is Roy Lichtenstein. And Lichtenstein was doing something similar to Andy Warhol in that he was looking at this mass production. In this case, it would have been newspaper cartoons, and these were cartoons that he would see in the newspaper, and he would think about the fact that this same cartoon is in newspapers all across the country, and so people's ideas are being shaped in the same way all across the country. And, is that good? Is it bad? I don't know. I don't know that there is a judgment you can necessarily make on it, but he was wanting to notice it. So he would actually take the images right from the newspaper and he would paint them really large. This is a pretty large painting. It's about the size you see it on the screen, actually, maybe a little bigger. But he would take that content and blow it up big, sort of take it a panel out of context, which I think is kind of interesting. But he does some neat stuff with lettering too. All right, your assignment is going to be to make a piece of art in 3 dimensions using letters, words, numbers, some kind of symbology. Now you can have something that gives a message, that communicates something, or you can do something that is purely interested.
Katie Adams to the office, please. Katie Adams to the office.
Sorry, purely interested in the the beauty of the form itself. So let's look at a couple examples. Here we have somebody who did a travel sculpture. This looks like it was made out of styrofoam and covered in maps. That was kind of cool. Here's another one that you can see, more of kind of the same idea. These are sort of making boxes out of the letters and then making 3-dimensional in that way. Different materials. This looks like maybe metal. I don't know. This looks like paper mache or plaster. This looks like maybe cardboard that they covered in newspaper. Again, some of these having a message. Just about art. This one's about Arrow, probably the show, and then this one really just about the letter M. Okay. Sometimes they can use things like found objects, so little pieces of things that you could find around the room, little treasures. The one on the wall that says junk, that's one that you could look at for that. And here we have one that looks like maybe it was made out of clay, maybe air dry clay. It's kind of fun. Little creatures. So here's what I want you to do. You're going to make come up with this idea. To start, I want you to find 4 pieces of word art, letter art, some pieces of art that use words or letters. And I want you to put those in your sketchbook in one way or another. Now they can be sketched in, you can print them out in little thumbnails and paste them in if you want, but something that gives you inspiration, meaning something that gives you an idea. Even if you already think you have an idea, which I'm sure most of you do, looking at other works of art can help move your thinking forward. So, for example, maybe you think you're going to make a letter N, and you're just going to make a letter N and you're going to paint it blue. Well, maybe you might think about doing something else to that N that you see in an inspiration. Kind of like that last one we looked at with the little monsters. Maybe you see something like that and you think, oh, maybe I could turn it into a character. My N could have little arms or eyes or something. So don't limit yourself to just the first thing you think of. That's what the inspirations are for. So you need 4 of those in your sketchbook. Put them in some way. Then I want you to do 2 sketches. One sketch, maybe just a straightforward, look at the word or letter that you're going to do. Then I want you to do a sketch that somehow shows me what the 3-dimensional aspect is. Is it going to be pasted up off of a board, kind of like our last project was? Is it going to be made out of cardboard in a little box? Is it going to be, what's it going to be? You let me know. Once you've done your sketches, then you can start working on your project, actual project, getting the cardboard or paper or whatever, gathering it up and actually start working. But I need to make sure you do your planning ahead of time. This will be due the Friday after next, which is the 29th of January. Don't forget that the project we started last week is due this Friday. All right, if you have any questions, you can call me or email me or ask me when you see me. Thanks a lot. Good luck.